Hello, everybody. Welcome to the next episode of the NACP podcast. I am your host, Calvin, and I'm joined by my co-host, Leo.
Hello. Just us today, though. No guest.
Yeah, no guess. We couldn't get anybody last minute.
Yeah, that's
Really,
on us. We took too long to decide to do this.
yeah. But next week, if you're interested, just message us, obviously. If not, we'll be putting out offers and hoping people bite.
We'll find something to talk about, I'm sure. Within probably 2 weeks, we're going to start seeing Koro reveals. The first Koro reveals for Sword and Shield, so that'll be a thing to talk about. So we'll
Oh,
find
yeah.
stuff. There's going to be
Excited for any bit of news we can get from that.
Give it to me. Inject that
All
shit
right.
straight into my veins.
Yeah, we're starving out here.
Yeah.
But we got a pretty cool show for you tonight. We are now in post draft of power.
Welcome to the off season.
Yeah, it's we've got actually quite a bit of content planned for the group for the next while, so it won't be quite the drought that we've suffered in the past. But there's a lot to talk about. After the draft of power is easily one of the largest tournaments we've ever done, and there's a lot of stuff that's in the fallout of it here that's going to definitely change the landscape and create new opportunities and lots of interesting things to discuss.
Absolutely. So, we've got a lot of content that is directly affected by the results of these things, like your player rankings, for instance. And that's something really cool that's going to be able to fill up some of the content drought that would have happened in past off seasons. So it's going to be interesting for the next couple of months.
Oh, yeah. So one thing we're going to start off the show with, though, real quickly. And when I say quickly, I mean lightning fast.
Lightning round, baby.
So we've kind of suffered a little bit doing the team analysis with this show. We didn't quite get through them all with with this podcast, so we're gonna do a quick lightning round to just briefly go through the remaining 8 teams and rank them. So what? Before our system was 5 stars.
Yeah, we were doing 5 stars before. Do we want to maybe turn that into a 1 to 10 just so we can be a little more nuanced?
Sure.
Say 1 to 10 with no decimals.
I'm fine with that. 1 to 10. Well, hey, I'm going to pull this card right now. We're starting with Chris, but since you are the new champion, I'm going to let you go first.
Okay. Sounds good. So Chris ended off his season doing a lot of the same tricks, things like the Snorlax sort of coming in with their curse sets that proved to be a lot of a stall issue for some people. Adding Sylveon a little later on into the season, and then keeping that sort of bulky annoyingness with Suicune and Delmise. And you have a really annoying stall team to face off against with a nice sweeper for the late game in Blacephalon. Like a 6 out of 10.
Ooh, nice. I agree with a lot of those points. Very bulky team. I really liked how he rounded it off with fast late game sweepers like Blacephalon and Swellow. I think this team was actually quite underrated compared to a lot of the others. Really hard to break through his walls. I would actually give this team a 7 out of 10.
Nice. Moving on to Kyler, we have one of the harder hitting and more annoying megas of the tournament with the Mawile, though I will say I think that ends up being a little bit too predictable and kind of too easy to take advantage of in a draft format. Mega Mawile is really scary when you run into it and are prepared for it, but if you got a whole week plus to keep an eye on that thing, it ends up being a little bit easier to take advantage of. But with a lot of other fast, hard-hitting sweepers, or kind of mid-speed in the form of Chandelure, Latias, and things like Jolteon, he ends up having a pretty fast core to do some breaking, while things like Blastoise and Miltank take a bit of a beating. I like Kyler's team a lot, but I think it's a little middle of the road. I would probably give it another 6.
Yeah, I feel quite the same once again with Leo. Great threat with Mega Mawile. Does a great job wall breaking early game. I feel like Kyler failed to utilize his Volt turn a bit with Mian Xiao, particularly. He did bring Jolteon a lot. He fell a lot on to more of his bulk with his Donphan and Blastoise, which was good. But yeah, it's a standard balanced team, nothing too crazy besides the Mawile. 6 out of 10 as well.
Moving on to Reggie, starting off, I'm sure everybody knows and fears the Landorus T at this point. It's famously annoying and famously versatile, and just an overall fantastic OU pick, paired with a lot of really, really annoying bulk that Reggie was very good at taking advantage of in the forms of Milotic and Florges. He just has this ridiculous Volt turn paired with a super bulky core to switch in to even out momentum there, and ends up being one of the more annoying and real powerhouse trainers to deal with. I would probably give this team like an 8 out of 10.
Oh, yeah. Don't let the top 3 picks fool you. This is a surprisingly bulky team. Many people have not been able to break through this core of Melodic, Florges, Registeel. So bulky. And with things like Infernape, Landorus, Beedrill, all offering incredible speed and offensive options, this is a team that is hard to break through. And when you do, by that point, you're weakened to the point of an easy revenge kill or late game sweep by the rest. I really hate fighting this team, and I think it is actually a 9 out of 10.
Ooh, 9. Nice. How about we switch it up now, Calvin? You want to take the first note on Luke here?
Oh, you bet. Sure thing. So we've got Luke here. Luke started out with a bit of a disjointed team, but made one of the best trades, in my opinion, in the league, opting for Mega Venusaur, which completely changed what he did with his team. Same with the Crawdont. Great trade. He has a very balanced team with great breakers and Crawdont. A strong balance with Venusaur, Gligar, Starmie offering lots of hazard removal and just general bulk. And then with the Choice Scarf Nihilego, always sitting in the back ready to Beast Boost sweep, is a pretty, like I said, as balanced as it gets, but it worked to Luke's strength. I think this is one of the better balanced teams. I'd say this is a 7 or 8 out of 10. I'll stick with my guns. I'll say 8 out of 10.
I agree with a lot of that. I liked the Venusaur trade as well. It gave him a nice bulky core Pokemon to deal with that is always annoying, very stally, just incapable of being whittled down, really. Pair that with a lot of really effective late game super fast sweepers, like your Raikou, like your Nihilego, and somewhat Starmie. That ends up being more of a utility Pokemon more of the time, but it can definitely sweep if you want it to. The stuff that I think is sort of holding him back a little bit is kind of a middling sort of bulk and utility core paired with some slower mons. Like Gligar with Eviolite takes a lot of hits, and Venusaur is able to stall out for days. But aside from that, he doesn't have too many easy, bulky kind of switch ins. It's sort of middle of the road bulk in that regard. But when you have the kind of breaking power that he already has, paired with some of the utility of those two Pokemon, Venusaur and Gligar, it still ends up being a really annoying and really reliable core to work with while he whittles you down otherwise. So I'm going to agree with your lower estimate and say like a 7 out of 10.
Nice. Okay. Moving on to my team. I'm going to make the case that I drafted one of the best offensive teams in the draft. Simply high offense team with spike support and just an unlimited amount of offensive options. Whether I had Thundurus or Mew as my OU pick, I was very unpredictable with either set. Paired up with Extreme Volt Turn with Hydreigon, Scizor. Not really Volt Turn, but lots of U-Turn.
That's even better than Volt Switch most of the time.
Yeah, exactly. Hard breakers like Blastoise, Zygarde, and then not really walls, but lots of tanks to be able to get like Stealth Rocks out with Steelix or Mew, be able to phase the opponents through spikes, and basically just sweep late game with Choice Scarfers, Tailwind, or priority moves. I like my team a lot. I'd give it a 9.
You know your team better than I do, and I agree with a lot of what you just said. You have some of the more annoying Pokemon to deal with in the form of like the Klefki, which was a late game pickup, but one that I think you're probably happy with. One of your more well utilized versatile picks in the Gengar, which like how many times are you going to see Trick Room Gengar? Not often, but you used it and you used it pretty effectively, and that shows the versatility of a lot of these picks here. Like you can do so many different things with your Gengar, with your Klefki, with the Mew that you had sort of in the middle of the season that you traded for the Thundurus again, and all while having a lot of really reliable, bulky Pokemon. Vaporeon with Wish support and Steelix just for sheer defensive bulk give you a lot of really nice, even momentum switches that let you bring in your other threats pretty easily, thanks to a lot of like your U-turn core. I'm gonna have to agree with your 9 out of 10. This is a great team.
Yeah, glad to hear that.
Yeah.
On to Daniel, which was also previously Manny.
Mm-hmm.
Now, not a fan of that Victini trade, but they actually, weirdly enough, made it work. This is a pseudo whatever weather team is appropriate for the moment team. I love it. He's brought Rain with Seismitoad and Sun with Venusaur. What is going on? This team is so versatile in what it can do and accomplish. This is one of the more underrated lower tier players teams, in my opinion, and especially for a team that was picked up after the draft. He just picked up some great Pokemon, some great bulk. You got Muck, Alolan, able to Pursuit Trap. Rotom Heat with the bad typing is still bulky and able to do multiple things, whether offensive or defensive with Defog. Togekiss is an annoying piece of shit. Goodra, bulky, hard-hitting wall breaker. Mega Banette is his get out of jail free card, which I absolutely love, with the Destiny Bond prankster. And then just his NU picks are some of the best NU picks here. We got Aerodactyl, Speed, Stealth Rocks, Seismitoad, defensive, even offensive options. And Palossand, he picked that up from Shane afterwards, who proved to always be an incredible, bulky, physical wall. I really like this team. Obviously, there's some problems with it, with just Stealth Rocks was always a huge problem with this team, and sometimes the speed was a problem, I noticed. Nothing eclipsed 100 except for the Aerodactyl. So in that regards, it's not the best, but I feel confident giving it a 7, just with just how versatile everything is. Even though everything's not great, it's still very versatile.
I hadn't thought about those points about the kind of competing weather teams. That's a really interesting facet of this, because he, when I played against him, pulled out a really surprising Sunny Day Togekiss, which really, like, those kind of crazy one-off techniques are the sort of things that I personally really value in these drafts, and I think makes his team a lot better as a result. The Togekiss is obviously something that I value because I drafted it early on and found that unfortunately it didn't really have a place in my team, despite the fact that I absolutely love that Pokemon. So all about Togekiss. The Victini, in my opinion, somewhat has a similar problem to like the Mega Mawile, though not nearly as much, because Victini actually has a pretty wide moveset, but because of really strong moves like V-Create, it ends up a lot of times being pretty predictable as something of like just a fast fire type physical attacker. Which is something that can surprise people sometimes, because you can obviously switch that up if you want to and really throw people for a loop. But still, I like this team a lot. That versatility is incredible. And I think that you're pretty much on target with a 7 out of 10. I want to rate it a little bit higher, but there are a couple of things like a little bit of a water weakness for some of your more important Pokemon and fast Pokemon like Aerodactyl and Victini. But aside from that, I think that this is a really good, fun, reliable, and versatile team. So 7 out of 10.
Nice. Moving on to Shane, somebody who made playoffs with this team. Man, his team has really changed. When he started off, it was very more stall, or even just semi-stall, like balanced stall. Just tons of bulk. Mega Aggron paired with Umbreon, his Palossand, his Mandibuzz, Pyukumuku, all these bulky monsters, and then with just the Kieran Black and the Primarina in the back, that was a very good combination. And Kieran Black with the Z move is nothing to be afraid of. The Z, what is his signature move? Freeze Shock, I think it is absolutely ridiculous. But basically, his ability to be able to wall basically any team with his team, except for fighting types. He struggled with fighting types, and you could definitely see that in his earlier games, which he did fix that problem with the Aromatize. But at that point, he made a few other trades, which kind of changed his team to more of a balance offense, integrating the Arcanine, like the Drapion, the Tornadus, which are more offensive but able to be bulkier. And I think that's when his team actually started to struggle a bit. You know, he definitely didn't like Stealth Rocks. But his top 3 picks are so solid and supported properly. He was able to pull off some interesting sweeps like Arcanine with agility, Tailwind with Tornadus, able to support Kieran Black and Primarina. So I would have probably rated this team higher earlier in the season. I would have given it a 9, but near the end of the season, I feel like it actually kind of got worse with the trades. I'll give it an 8.
All right. I have similar thoughts to that. I like a lot of his bulky offense that he has available to him. The Kieran Black, obviously being the biggest one on that list. He had a really early trade that I thought improved his team a lot, because for a long time he had one of the slower teams in the whole draft, and so I thought that trading the Venomoth for the Tornadus was awesome for that, because now he's got some speed control and it is less reliant on having like a Choice Scarfer on his team. But his later trades really did take away a lot of those bulk core. I thought that dropping the Umbreon, while I understand it, the Drapion's kind of an interesting switch there. It changes a lot of the dynamic. Like, that's a completely different role. And I know that Shane is a big thinking about the roles of Pokemon guy. So I understand why Umbreon had to go. But then trades like the Palossand for the Claydol, like, okay, you get a rapid spinner, but the typing changes a lot. You lose a lot of your bulk and your kind of recovery options, and it ended up making this team sort of lose its identity a bit. So I think, I think that this is probably like a 7 or an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I think that's a fair rating.
Yeah.
And to round out this discussion, we end off with Steven. Steven did not have one of the best drafts. He basically drafted a threat out of every single tier, which is not a bad thing to do. The problem is there's too much overlap in what things do, so you're kind of left, without certain things that your team would desire, like walls or support options, what have you. If everything's swords dancing and setting up, it's fine, but it's kind of easy to predict and prepare for when everything's practically the same. So, like, what I mean by that is, like, having Mimikyu, Tyrantrum, Beware, Scyther. These guys are all swords dancing in your face. Like, you're able to prepare for all of them with, like, a single Pokemon. He did fix this problem a little bit later on with some of the trades. I think he upgraded with his Mega Pidgeot. At least it's a different threat.
Yeah.
I don't know. Not the biggest fan of this team. Like, it did have some support options, like with Regirock, who was able to have Stealth Rocks, and Tentacruel did have Rapid Spin options and a bit of bulk there. I just think this team would have done a little bit better with it. It just seems like it's missing so much, and it's just so many guys doing the same thing. I'd give it a 3 or 4 out of 10. I think a 4 out of 10.
Yeah, this is something that I hadn't really thought of until looking at this list right now, is that the team sort of just looks like a bit of a hodgepodge of just, oh, I'm gonna get like the best thing that I can out of each of these tiers, without really thinking about the way that the different roles and type coverages overlap. So like, oh, from OU, Mimikyu's pretty good, although on its own, like the Volcarona that he had initially, I understood, because that's something that isn't quite as predictable. It's still a little too easy to take advantage of in a draft format, in my opinion, but it's not as bad as like a Mimikyu, or like Mimikyu. It's literally just like A, choice band, B, storage dance, and that's like pretty much it. Which I think is definitely a big downside. And you get similar issues like kind of all around here. Like Tentacruel is a really good pickup because it's like, oh, something supporty, something bulky, and something that has a lot of staying power. And everything else is sort of just like finding a new way to try to hit as hard as you can, really, with the exception of like maybe 3 Pokemon throughout the entire thing. So I think because of that, just because of how much role overlap and kind of the inability to fit a team with as many different roles as you want to, it's just kind of like all different flips on the same archetype. And for that reason, I think probably a 4 out of 10 as well. I want to say 3, but things like Tentacruel like knocks this team up like an extra point just on its own, just because of how reliable it is and how well it sort of shores up the weaknesses, a lot of these archetypal stuff. But aside from that, the team is lacking a lot.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, hey, that was a lightning round.
That was. Went a little bit longer than I think we intended, but that's all good. That's on me for setting the time. Oh, we'll say a sentence, and the first thing I do is drop a paragraph. But it's fine. I think we went through it quickly enough.
Yeah. Well, we promise with the next tournament, maybe what we'll do is we'll return to more of like the in-group analysis. I know a lot of people they get annoyed by that sometimes, but I feel like it gets a little bit more attention, and at least we can keep up with it a little bit easier when it's separate from this. So
yeah, I agree.
Yeah. But now that we've gotten through that, now we can talk about the juicy stuff.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So the playoffs are complete. The Draft of Power has concluded. Now, before we really dive too much into that, though, there's one thing we did want to address. A little bit of controversy in this one, as is with almost every playoffs we've ever hosted.
Unavoidable, apparently.
Yeah, we can't get through a single one. This one was definitely the best and the most, like, I feel like consistently played through. I felt happy with this one.
Yeah.
But there was still a pretty big blemish that, we need to talk about here. And that is obviously the Reggie forfeit issue. So basically after how the playoffs work, it's a best of 3 match, right? Which is different from the regular play, which is single battle. You move on to your next battle, like whoever is your other opponent of the week. But in playoffs, we do best of 3 to eliminate, chance, hacks. Kind of makes it a little bit more competitive that way. And basically what Reggie did after the first match is he forfeited. Basically, I know I'm pretty stingy when it comes to rules and such, but this kind of act, basically what it's saying is it kind of downplays almost everything else we've kind of built on here and what other people have kind of fought for, right? Like, there's a lot of people putting their hat into the pile hoping to get into playoffs and would have loved to have, the shot that this player had. And I don't think, really forfeiting and not taking this match seriously was really respectful to all the other players in the league. And basically, because of that, kind of come to the conclusion that moving forward here, we'll be forcing bans in the future. Now, with Reggie and in the past, Jared, we're kind of giving them a free pass here because they're both good players, and I don't want to ban people from our group, especially when they've played through the entire season and they've done just fine. But moving forward, I feel like just it really undermines the tournament. I don't know. Leo, do you have a better way of explaining this? Or
Like it ends up feeling like, I don't know, like a lot of time was wasted, and like that opportunity was sort of thrown away when somebody else would have appreciated it, when somebody else would have like killed for the opportunity just to like be on that stage. And that's the kind of thing that leaves a lot of sour taste in people's mouths, and makes it a little bit harder maybe in the future to convince somebody to put in the effort for 9 weeks. And I guess that about sums up my thoughts on it. I'm sure that's all incoherent nonsense.
No, I think you said it a little better than me. I kind of got lost in my thoughts. I totally agree with what you said. Definitely feels like unfair to a lot of the people in the tournament because, yeah, like you said, they could have had that spot, or yeah, maybe the seeds would have been different. Something else though, that as far as like taking this professionally and competitively, is forfeiting your matches, especially in a playoff spot when like there's money on the line, there's ranking on the line, there's championships on the line. There's like, we try to make our tournaments actually mean something. For you to just forfeit, that allows room for cheating. So like, say me and a bunch of buddies got in, and I'm matched up with my friend. Well, just forfeit to me so that I can get pushed up higher. And say I'm matched up with another friend of mine. Just forfeit to me so that I can get pushed up higher. You're like falsely pushing yourself up higher, and you'll actually receive something for that. And I know that didn't happen in this case because I don't think Reggie and Ross know each other. But like Ross basically did get a free win out of that, and because of that, he was moved to the finals, and because of that, he gets a higher ranking, and because of that, he gets more money, and everything, right? And I know Ross. I know he would have rather do it legitimately and fairly and earned his way to that spot. So it even hurts his credentials because of that. So moving forward, we're going to give people, like I said in the past, Reggie and Jared, a free pass, but we're taking this more seriously next time, and we're going to be banning people for this because it's just not cool, and it hurts the nature and everything our group stands for, I think.
To give a little bit of maybe add a little bit of weight into sort of the importance of like championships and false championships, to kind of mess around with the timeline a little bit. Imagine that this is the thing that had happened in the very first round. Like, someone were to have played one game, or God forbid, not even play the first game, and before the match even starts, be like, I can't win. I either haven't done the prep work, or I've done the prep work and I've come to the conclusion that I cannot win. So I'm going to forfeit right here. And that person gets a free win, moves up to the next round, and they beat that guy. They move up to the championships, and they beat that guy. And now you have an entire championship that is decided on a match that was given away for free. And that's why you don't want to set a precedent of being easy on this kind of thing.
So that's basically our thoughts on it. We're trying to take it seriously, but also trying to be fair at the same time. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, let's move on.
Yeah,
this is not a fun topic.
We've taken a while.
Anyways, so playoffs. Holy shit! What a playoffs this time! Holy crap! Like, there was so much great games that happened.
Absolutely.
Besides the drama, like, I am very impressed by the high caliber matches we got and the outcomes. Like, holy.
We had like way more 3-match series than 2-match series, right? I think
for the most part, yeah. I think there was definitely a lot of the big matchups. I think they paid off for most of the big matches. Paid off. Sorry.
They're good games to watch. It's not like sometimes you get really bad luck. You spend an entire season having really high quality matches, and then all of a sudden playoffs comes around and like everything goes wrong, hacks and crits, and just everything goes wrong. And that didn't happen here. I think everybody was given the opportunity and was given, we don't like to acknowledge it that often, but the dice rolls necessary to like actually play these games to their highest potential. And I think for the most part they were.
Now I will point out, this will start the discussion of kind of looking at some of the games.
Yeah.
There was one series that was actually decided on this luck, unfortunately, and it's actually one of the series you wouldn't have expected.
Uh-huh.
And I actually feel pretty horrible because of it. It was actually my series against William.
Yeah.
If you go back and watch, William destroyed me the first match. The second match I came back, I kind of redeemed myself a little bit. There was some hacks in that, but that was like, it didn't really change the outcome at all.
Played. Yeah.
Like, there was a freeze, but like I kind of went back and looked at it multiple angles. I don't see any way he would have made any difference. Like, he would have still had to sack certain Pokemon, and I would have still been in such a good position. So that game, I still think I won definitively.
Yeah.
But the last match, I actually led off poorly, over-predicted. William was in such a great position, and then he missed a Stone Edge and allowed me to get critical damage on his Aerodactyl.
Yeah.
Which basically lost him the match. I feel so bad about that, because actually William, the 8th player in this, would have beaten the top player and moved on to the semifinals.
That would have been crazy.
So we didn't get that outcome, obviously, but that's a what-if scenario.
Yeah.
We would have had a Leo and William rematch, which if you saw their first match in the season,
2%
that was
health.
that was a fucking close match, man. So I would have loved to see that rematch. But hey, there's
like
an
literal 1.5% health separating the winner and loser of that game.
Yeah. So that's a what if scenario for a different day. Hey, let's talk about your series with Shane, which in my opinion was one of the best.
It was pretty crazy. Shane Shane, in our regular season game, it was like a complete nail biter, and ended in a similar way actually to my game with William, like low percentage health separating the winner and loser in that one. And that game ended the exact same way that the first game of the playoff series ended, with a stalemate match between my Tapu Lele and his Aggron, and me not doing enough damage and him heavy slamming me to death. And so I had to do some adjustments from there, rely a little bit less on Tapu Lele later in the series, and managed to come back after that deficit at the beginning and bring it to a game 3 and get the W on Shane in 3 really good, really close games for people like fighting tooth and nail to get over it. So I think that's a fun series to watch.
We just need to acknowledge, you need to give yourself more props. Game 2, Tapu Lele, I think it was in against Mandibuzz?
Yeah.
The focus blast that connected that Aggron on the Switch. That was that was a game-changing play. Holy shit.
I had a couple of pretty nice predictions throughout it. That was one of the better ones for sure.
Oh, yeah. So, fuck, that was a good series. A lot of people came and watched that one.
Yeah, I liked how active the stands were for these playoffs. There were a lot of people coming in and watching every game, being active in the chat, and it made for a really lively experience every week.
Mm-hmm.
Week 1 especially, though, I think, just because of like the amount of games going on, people are bouncing back and forth, like friends are still in, things like that. So week 1 especially was a lot of fun. It was really active.
Oh yeah. Now the next series, which was actually pretty good, but kind of a little bit of problems as far as team building goes, was Ross and Chris.
Yeah.
Now, holy Ross. You know he put on his serious pants when throughout the entire season you do not see that Renucleus ever.
Yeah.
And in all 3 matches you see Renucleus.
Mm-hmm.
And I just knew, like, nope, we're getting a serious Ross now. He's pulling the punches. In that first match, he completely obliterated Chris with the Renucleus.
Yes.
Oh, it was vicious.
What a great Pokemon to deal with, like a Stalkor like that, because You can't outstall a Reuniclus. You can't toxic it. It's got recover. It's gonna Calm Mind in your face, and it becomes a problem sooner rather than later, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And he didn't have a phaser, or he didn't have an unaware Pokemon to deal with it. So yeah, it was just basically over the second it started setting up. So that was awesome. Game 2 was much closer, but that's a game Chris won. But arguably, Ross made the same mistake that many people before him have made with putting the correct abilities on their speed boosting Pokemon. He forgot it on his Sharpedo and was unable to outspeed the Swellow when it counted, and lost that match.
That's rough. That's one of those issues that you run into, because Showdown makes it so easy to just paste a Mega Pokemon in there, which is really nice and really convenient, so that you can look at the stats like when it matters. But you oftentimes forget that the pre-Mega ability is pretty darn important when you're dealing with things like Sharpedo, and another really important one is Mega Slowbro and keeping Regenerator. So you got to be careful about just like going into Team Builder and clicking Mega Sharpedo or Mega Slowbro, because they're one of a couple of Mega evolutions that really, really care about that pre-Mega ability, and Showdown's team building can kind of betray that sometimes.
Yeah. And their final match there was basically Tapu Bulu just destroying Chris. Chris put up a pretty good fight, though, honestly. I think he did really well. You know, this is his first tournament he was in with us. A draft tournament, at least.
Yeah. He's done some OBTTs.
Yeah, but he did really good. I was really impressed with his performance. And Ross obviously got this big definitive win and moved forward. The last game in the quarterfinals was pretty tough match. It was Reggie and Laurel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Going into this, I absolutely refuse to help William and Laurel team build. Normally, that's the only help I offer.
Build against yourself. What? That's so insensitive.
That one was obvious, but the Laurel one was the big one, right? Because I could have given her some advice and looked up, but she completely went into it on her own. She tried her best. Reggie is such a tough opponent when he takes it seriously, and there was just no way she could break through his walls. It was just really, really hard to get through. So unfortunately, she lost. And then Reggie moved on to face Ross, which obviously that outcome completely blew my expectations out of the water and what I was expecting, because I was pretty confident Reggie was going to win, but obviously things didn't go that way. And we got Ross in the finals there.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. And then on to me and you.
Yeah.
Well, what do you got to say about that?
I wasn't gonna let myself get mind gamed like I did during the regular season, so I just went into it being like, I have to team build this like as well as I possibly can, so that I am in as few situations as possible to like overthink this. And I think that is a thing that generally paid off here with situations like that Rabombi set that I'm sure you did not predict.
Definitely did not. Or I just didn't even consider Rabombi a threat, which was a problem.
Completely out of nowhere. That Pokemon, I wasn't all that creative with it during the regular season, but Rocky Helmet, Bulky Rabombi put in a shit ton of work, and like in the long run, like was pretty close to the reason why I ended up winning some of those matches, because like that Blastoise is such a problem for me. And having something to just like annoy it enough to not have to worry about it ended up really paying off a lot more than I expected it to. So that's probably like my kind of favorite takeaway from that series, and one of my more fun team building takeaways, I think, throughout the entire season, to be honest.
Oh yeah, I found team building for you was actually really easy, and I could bring diverse stuff. Like all three of my teams, I brought completely different ideas, which a lot of times you kind of have core central ideas which are the same. You just change a few things. But with you, I felt like, no, I'm bringing Double Dance Scizor with screen support this match.
Yeah.
And then the next match, I'm bringing Spike support with a Thundurus this match. And then the next match, I'm bringing a physical Thundurus with this type of team support. And it's like, I felt like I could get away with a lot against you.
Yeah, for sure. Because I have a predictable team. Like I've got like my team has like one kind of pretty specific outline that I go to, like regardless of the match, and it is something easy to predict but hard to handle in game.
Mm-hmm. I think because obviously I made maybe a controversial trade right before this playoffs, was me dropping Mew and bringing Thundurus in.
Yeah.
One of the reasons is like looking at a lot of the teams going into this, just a lot of teams, there was a lot of offensive teams that rely on sticky web, and a lot of bulky teams, which if it's an offensive team that doesn't rely on webs and it just outspeeds Thundurus, then Thundurus is not useful.
Yeah.
But since your team and Laurel's team both rely on sticky web, Thundurus is in his element, right? Because I don't give a fuck about sticky web. So that was good matchups for me. And then the other bulky teams like Chris, Ross, Reggie, William, I actually had a bad matchup against. So not really William. But those matchups, I actually really liked Thundurus. So I felt Thundurus was the biggest threat against you. I feel like Mew actually wouldn't have been that big.
I definitely think the Thundurus is a bigger threat against me than the Mew, mostly because like I like you said, like the speed control is such a big deal, and not having a way to reliably outspeed that Thundurus was something that I was afraid of the whole time, because I don't have like a really easy way to handle the Thundurus. Like the Steelix is okay out there, but I can't switch into it because I know that you get Z Superpower / Z Focus Blast, which is a problem. So I can't be just completely like go Steelix and expect it to save me every time. So really had to play around the Thundurus. I think it was easily like the thing I was most scared of. The Gengar is annoying, but I wasn't as scared of it as I was the Thundurus.
Yeah, Gengar was on paper good against you, but see, the thing I failed, and looking back on it, the thing I failed to take in consideration in my matches against you was the fact that I should have known it was inevitable that you were going to bring a Choice Scarf Lele, and that just, like, for some reason I just figured that just wasn't really going to happen, and obviously that's kind of what cost me, because without Tailwind support, like, your Lele still had speed superiority, even without sticky webs or anything. So, like, that actually screwed me over a lot, and my inability to deal with it. Like, I think going back on it, maybe if I had done more pursuit trapping with Scizor, stuff like that, I feel like I could have dealt with it a bit better. But generally, I'm not too upset with how I played. Like, I think leading Blastoise every single time was like the best situation, except for the last time when you did Celebi.
Yeah, by game 3, I was like, he is relying on Blastoise a lot, and it's annoying, so I need Celebi.
Well, it literally beat every other lead almost. Yeah. So, especially when you're going, I know, like, if you lead Haxorus, like, you're just going to collect a kill, so I have to go Blastoise. That was basically my...
I think I did that game 1. I think that's exactly how game 1 started, isn't it?
Yeah, and then game 2, I think you did Flygon, which, like, obviously Blastoise is going to beat, so
yeah, of course. I don't know what I was thinking with the Flygon. I think the goal was to, like, U-turn into a counter lead, but I didn't catch on to the fact that you were literally just going to throw Blastoise out every time.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, no, our matches were good, and then obviously you won, and then you moved on to the finals against Ross, which were pretty well-played matches, I'd say.
Yeah,
what are your thoughts on
them? I thought a lot of the time that I think generally I kind of outbuilt Ross. Like, I had just a lot of really easy like not even thinking about it counters available to me. Things like the Celebi against the Gastrodon, and things like the Ribombi, which I needed to play really carefully around, but the Ribombi is a consistent counter to the Sharpedo because it's like the only thing that I can reliably like throw away more or less, because it's just like, oh, I want sticky webs. Worst case scenario, I might want it to defog, but because its rolls are so limited, I can just like do these two things and then strap a focus sash and a moonblast on it and call it a Sharpedo counter, and that's really all it needed to be. And that paid off a lot. But the Celebi into the Gastrodon was like the biggest one. I had a hard time getting that matchup to pay off in game 1, but in game 2, it saved me pretty much. And just doing my usual deal of like set up and break with Haxorus, although I didn't really get that good of an opportunity in match 1. He played around it really well and didn't give me too many opportunities to get in there easily. And then eventually I just got selfish and impatient and tried to Dragon Dance in front of him and immediately got burned. So Haxorus didn't really get to do its job, though most of the time Haxorus just being on a team forces people to play in such a way that like it's doing its job. So
yeah,
that's not that big of a deal. But in general, I just like how reliable my team's archetype was, and it was sort of able to kind of do the same thing to every team, just like with slightly different pieces around it to make those jobs easier. And that's kind of how I feel about the playoffs in general, not even necessarily just this series.
Yeah, I think, you definitely were leading the dance in a lot of matches. Like, I think that's the best phrase I could use. And other people basically followed you. And that gave you, obviously, opportunities to kind of change the direction in which you're going. And then that, if your opponents weren't prepared for that direction, well, then they're open. Right?
Yeah. And I think that's what made a lot of, like the Aggron prediction that we talked about from the quarterfinals. There are a couple of similar plays in these series, like one really key T-Bolt on Sharpedo in game 1, and then in game 2, the playing around the Mantine with Incineroar, where I knew that Mantine had Protect already. My Incineroar has Thunder Punch, but I don't want to like scare him out. So Darkest Lariat on the Protect and then Thunder Punch the next one. And I know that I'm most likely going to outspeed him because I made sure that I had enough speed for max speed Aggron and for min speed Mantine on that Incineroar.
Right. Yeah, see, with that play specifically, I think Ross actually misplayed.
Definitely.
If
I
he
think he should have seen that T-Punch coming.
Or it didn't matter what he saw coming. Like, if he brought... Because whatever Gastrodon's set was, for you, I would have figured he would have gone physically defensive. Especially defensive, it's not beating anything that's a special attacker on your side.
Yeah, aside from that weird AV set.
Question, does Clawwitzer get Energy Ball?
No.
No? Okay, well, regardless if you brought Claw, I think you would have brought Hidden Paragraphs potentially for it. Like, and then obviously Rabombi can just Quiver Dance on it. Celebi is going to beat it. Tapu Lele is going to beat it. So I feel like a physically defensive Gastrodon actually would have been best. And physically defensive Gastrodon can always wall Incineroar. Even with knockoff, like Gastrodon has pretty good recovery with Recover. So it doesn't necessarily need leftovers. And it would have just been the better scout. Like, the Protect was good, don't get me wrong. But yeah, I don't think... Even staying in to take a Darkest Lariat with Mantine isn't... I don't know what you're getting from that. Because it wasn't leftovers, was it?
No.
I don't think it was. That was something I noticed.
Either.
Yeah, so like it's taking damage. And were you Assault Vest Incineroar?
Yes.
Yeah, so like... No offense, Mantine's not the strongest, so the Skull's not going to be doing much to Incineroar in turn. I think Incineroar is doing best just breaking the Mantine in that situation, even if you just stick with Darkest Lariat. So I think that was a misplay. Yeah, if I can just... I think Ross played well. I don't think he really prepped well in a lot of situations. Like, maybe his overall game plan wasn't always like quite solid. Which is unfortunate because in the past, like, he's brought solid game plans. but I really think he should have prioritized stealth rocks against you.
For sure.
He's one of the few people, like, your Uxie will always take hit from literally everything on your team, maybe minus the Incineroar. And
I
all he has to do for that is Colbur Berry, though.
I specifically brought X Scissor Buginium Z Haxorus because I was so afraid of Uxie and Reuniclus, which neither of which he brought, which I was surprised about because I feel like he could have and done a lot with them.
Yeah, and that's another thing that he didn't bring was Renucleus. And like the standard Magic Guard set probably wasn't the best here because you weren't going to really have opportunities to set up, obviously with a Haxorus around,
Yeah.
Or even Bisharp for that matter. But like Regenerator and Assault Vest for Lele and Celebi, even Rabombi. I think that thing would have taken a Rabombi Bug Buzz and been able to kill it with one.
Oh, with an Assault Vest? Absolutely. If I was
Yes.
Specs, it would have been able to take a Rabombi Bug Buzz.
Yeah, so I felt like that was kind of missing. And yeah, I really think the Stealth Rocks would have done really well against you.
My team is bad at clearing. It's been a problem the entire season because I haven't been able to reliably fit a Rapid Spinner on this team, so I have to rely on Defog. And even then, my game plan is always so strict. Like it's really limiting. It's effective, but I take the same four Pokemon into pretty much every match. And then on like it's always Rabombi, Lele, Haxorus, Steelix. And then two other things that either help with breaking or help support. Usually later in the season it was Celebi. A lot of times it was Clawitzer to help with breaking. Earlier it would have been something like Togekiss and Xatu to just like provide wish support and defog support. But that's really limiting, and I have to take defog Rabombi like a lot. And that's not good.
Yeah. Kind of the final thing, which actually, in my opinion, probably was what lost him the match, the final match against you, more so than a lot of things, was kind of, and this is just kind of like thinking out turns, like thinking your game plan through and understanding what you're up against. So, okay, you're going up against a Ross, you've got a Tapu Bulu, you've got a Scavalier, you've got Aggron, he's got a lot of physical attackers, so obviously you're going to bring the Mega Steelix. Like I said, that's one of the few things you always bring. So the Escavalier was a good bring, in my opinion. I actually think it was a great thing. Because with an Assault Vest, if it was Assault Vest, it can take even, like, I think, is Hidden Power Fire a 2-hit KO or 3-hit KO? I'm not 100% sure, but
a Scarf Lele, so it's a 2-hit KO. I think if it's Specs, it's still an OHKO from Lele.
Right. But I don't know. I would have looked into those options, and so the Escavalier is a good bring. Now, what he decided to do with it, though, is where I think the problem is. Your Mega Steelix, even if he has Choice Banded Drill Run, it's not a good option in dealing with Mega Steelix.
It's like
because you're going to have to predict. You're going to have to predict that switch in multiple times in order to actually deal with it, and that's not what your goal of the Escavalier should be. The goal of the Escavalier is to switch in, take a hit from Lele, and remove it. I would have run Pursuit Escavalier if I was him, because removing the Lele, which obviously the Lele was the biggest threat on his team, especially with the Tapu Bulu that was scarfed, he would have decimated your team after Lele, because every time Bulu killed something, you brought Lele in and collected your kill. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't have been able to necessarily do that if the Lele... Well, obviously you wouldn't be able to do that if the Lele was removed. Mm-hmm. And he kept going for Choice Banded Megahorn, which just brought the Steelix out. And what did the Steelix do? It just heavy slam and just got damage on everything, right? So I think that was a pretty big mistake. Obviously, the game-losing mistake was the premature Mega Evolve on the Sharpedo, which I'm not sure why he did that. I think keeping it unevolved and waiting. But I guess it just didn't matter because you always had the Focus Sash, though.
Yeah, he let me play a lot more liberally with the Rabombi just because of the way the Sharpedo was used. But in the end, because he didn't prioritize doing Stealth Rocks, Rabambi ended up being able to do its job just fine as a result of that. And it would have been able to do it regardless of how many speed boosts it got. But like, if I recall, the turn that he mega'd, he didn't even like use a jaw move, and he could have killed me regardless. Because I think it was on like Steelix at 20% or something like that. But like,
Yeah, right.
yeah, it was a weird use of the Mega Sharp for sure.
But still a very intricate and exciting final match between you two.
For sure, for sure.
You know, I kind of always viewed you two as pretty similarly competitive players, like as far as level goes, and pretty high tier match for the finals. Very unique, at least.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
nice seeing not Calvin versus Sean as the final match again.
That's the nice part going into these playoffs in general, is that just so many new names on the list. It was always going to be a situation like that where we had, like, there was always going to be something interesting, at the very least, on the side that you weren't on.
Oh yeah, for sure. So yeah, I don't know. How's it feel to be a damn champion now?
Weird. Every other season, aside from the team league, which I mean, the team league was so different that like I don't even really count it. But like I've always been just barely out. Like I think I've gotten fifth both times. Did I get fifth in the BDL and the type tournament? It was definitely in the type tournament.
Yeah, you got fifth
Yeah,
both times.
So. That sounds, and that's been the story for the longest time. Like just barely out of playoff contention, and I feel as though I have gotten better over the years, and feels pretty good to have some proof of that now. So, good season. I had a fun time.
Yeah, I think this is an amazing season with a great, finale.
Yeah, I think so.
Definitely going to be interesting seeing the rankings. Like I said, there's definitely some drastic changes. There's going to be some raises for a lot of people, and unfortunately a few drops for some others. But you have that to look forward to in the next few weeks, I'd say.
Yeah, hopefully going to have a ratings council meeting soon.
Yeah, cool. So I think that's going to conclude our talk as far as the playoffs go.
Yeah, it was in depth for sure.
Yeah, very in depth. But now we would like to have a quick, not really quick, but we would like to talk a little bit about the draft of power superlatives.
Yeah,
which obviously we have two categories for. We have player and Pokemon awards. So this is the more fun part of the draft of power after like conclusion. We get to sit around and joke about who gets, awarded which category and such. So
and everybody gets to get involved, which is awesome.
Yeah,
everybody, especially this most recent season, because playoffs were like 3 weeks, but spend so much time being a little bit detached after the regular season concludes if you didn't make the postseason. So having the superlatives around to be able to acknowledge the people that didn't get to play those extra X amount of games is always something that I looked forward to. Always being the one other time that we did it, but I thought it was pretty successful. So I'm happy that it's made a return.
Oh yeah, and we've got a few new categories this time around, so you can look forward to them. But a lot of them are still the same from the Budget Draft League.
Yeah, exactly. We covered a lot for that last time, so it was natural that there was going to be, because I mean, they were the same kind of league. Like we drafted in pretty much the same way. So there was bound to be some overlap there.
Mm-hmm. But I don't know. Me and Leo, we kind of just want to go through and give our thoughts for each category. I thought it'd be fun to do that. So, which one would you like to take a look at first? Do you want to do player or Pokemon?
Let's do player first.
Player. Ooh, I like it. All right, so I got the list here. Yeah, so the first one is the Wolverine, the most savage player who has either, quote, stunted or made his opponent look like a fool, all while maintaining a very cool and collected demeanor.
I have a single turn that is responsible for my decision on this one.
Enlighten us.
Luke v. Sean. the last like 2 or 3 turns of Luke versus Sean, when Luke had spent the entire game like breaking Sean down with Crawdaunt, who was named Sean Daunt, and Sean says in chat the one piece of, or something along the lines of like, the one solace I have is that Sean Daunt lives on. And as he hits enter, Luke switches in Crawdaunt, sacking it and killing it so that he can get an even momentum switch. And as a result of that, I'm voting for Luke as the Wolverine.
I completely agree with you. That was like such an amazing moment. Like Luke is at this point got Sean in a complete winning. Like he's gonna beat Sean no matter what Sean does. There's nothing he can do to this Venusaur, and he actively heals up his Venusaur, switches out into the Crawdaunt, sacks it, and then brings Venusaur back in just to continue the sweep. Like it's so. That's the definition of savage.
It's
like,
so completely unnecessary. It's hilarious.
Yeah, and it's love it. So yeah, I think Luke's the best candidate for this one. Oh, moving on, we got the Misfit Shepherd. So this is a player that utilizes low tier Pokemon on their team the best. So you're using your PUs, your NUs really well.
Yeah.
I don't know. Who do you think?
The one that struck out to me for this one was Ross, especially with his like later game trades, but like the Uxie was always really reliable for him, and then later on with the trades, Gastrodon, who doesn't count. Gastrodon is not friggin' NU or PU. But Gastrodon and Aggron were undeniably big parts of his going on to make it all the way to the finals. And for that, he got my vote for the best user of low tiers.
Nice. See, I kind of thought this. I actually voted for you for that one.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I think your Clawitzer, especially early season, was just such a menace.
That thing's annoying.
Like under Sticky Web, that's the one thing holding Claw down, right? It's its garbage speed, and being able to mitigate it at least to some degree made it so that it's wall breaking in an amazing way. And this is before you had Haxorus, so Claw was definitely picking up a little bit more of the slack in that end.
Haxorus sort of stole the show later on. Oh yeah,
for sure. So Claw was you used Claw really well, so well that it was actually in the kill leaderboard
for a while.
So
and it was easily the slowest Pokemon on the kill leaderboard.
Oh, for sure. and then later on, your Incineroar definitely. I think he started getting into the hang of using Incineroar and understanding how he can fit into your team. And you were definitely using him really well, to the point where he became a star in your team. You even threw him in on your Hall of Fame.
I did.
So, yeah, I think you deserve a lot of props for using your lower tier guys really well.
Well, I appreciate that.
Cool.
You want to move on?
Oh yeah. So next we have the wild card, most creative player in terms of Pokemon sets that were used in team compositions. What are your thoughts?
I recall. I think I actually gave this one to you for a lot of what I mentioned in the team analysis. You're never going to see a Trick Room Gengar again. But I think having things like Blastoise, which, while not like necessarily unpredictable, it's just so versatile that you never know exactly what you're going to get. The Gengar you legitimately were unpredictable with. The Scissor, you changed the set like every other game. You had a different, like, not even different set, but like a whole different role of Scissor. And then in the middle of the season with the Mew, where you can just do whatever you want with the Mew. And so for those reasons, I gave you the wild card.
Cool. Yeah, I appreciate that. I actually gave this one to Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he was just an underrated player in this league that not many people gave much attention to. And that dude just was using some creative stuff. Like that Mega Banat, I just loved it so much.
Yeah.
The way he used it as like a get out of jail free card for threats, and even you fell victim to.
I did. He got me.
To its wacky mechanics.
Yeah.
And just as a weird weather teams and such, I think he deserved a wild card because he was pretty unpredictable.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I am really excited for next season And I hope Daniel sticks around and drafts his own team, because he made this and was able to make this team his own thanks to some trades. But he picked the team up from Manny and made the team his own, and had a lot of fun, like really bending and breaking that team. So I think he's going to be one you really have to look out for, and you should be excited to see when he finally gets the opportunity to build a team of his own.
Oh yeah, agreed. So here's another one. Now this one could go to a lot of people. The highest bidder, best drafted team. I think I've already made it pretty clear who I think had the best team, which was Ross. But there's definitely some other people who drafted great teams.
I thought I kind of agreed with you that Ross is the guy that ended the season with the best team, but I gave this one to Laurel, or maybe I did give this one to Ross, but I would have / should have given this one to Laurel for strictly for like it being a draft team. Like her original team, she only made one trade, and it didn't really bite her all that badly, to be honest. There are a couple of things that could have been cleaned up here and there that she maybe should have taken advantage of with her trades, but in the long run, she made playoffs. She proved that she didn't necessarily need to. The team that she drafted right at the beginning was awesome and brought her all the way through the series, all the way into playoffs, and for that reason, she gets my vote for the highest bidder.
Nice. So the upstart, most improved player. So this is somebody who is not necessarily new, but has shown like advancement, improvement from the beginning of their career to now. There's a few people that are definitely under the category of this.
Mm-hmm.
The one that sticks out to me, though, obviously because I know this person like he's my brother, would be William. As far as like, you know, seeing him struggling, understanding like EVs and IVs to like him like being able to double switch and predict and make it to playoffs on his own.
Go toe to toe with you.
Well, yeah, the dude should have beat me. Like, I think that's improvement.
No kidding. The places that I looked to first were like Kelsey, who improved a lot and put a lot of effort in. I know that she did. But I gave my vote on this one to Kyler, actually. He started out on the lower end of the ladder, took a couple of losses right at the very beginning, but towards the end of it, he was fighting for his playoff spot right there with Laurel and William and like 3 other people. And just strictly on the amount of climbing that he did in the standings, he was the one that I gave my vote to for the upstart.
Oh yeah, I think that's a great choice as well. Now this is a funny one.
Yes,
now, if you're an active member of the group, you really need. I really want to hear what people have to say about this one, because the antagonist, the most aggressive and agitating player, word that goes to a player that's always picking fights and causing a stir. You know, you think of the heel wrestlers in this one. Some of the greats, like, you know, The Rock and I don't know, just great heel wrestlers and stuff, and how that would transfer into this. There's 2 people that really stick out to me. I picked the one I had to go with was Hayden. Hayden is just he's just so good at getting under your skin. It's just so funny. Like, if you ever just want the most condescending comment made on your video, on your battle, or just in the chat, you're talking shit, like, he's gonna try and put you in your place. It's so hilarious.
I also voted for Hayden. Who was the other name that you had in mind?
The guy that was trying to go toe-and-toe with Hayden and would also cause fights with everybody was William.
I was going to say, exactly. Those are the 2 places that my brain went to immediately, was Hayden and William. I think ultimately I gave my vote to Hayden as well, though. Yeah.
Pretty funny.
Yeah.
Then we move on to the seasoned. Ooh, the saltiest player who's quick to anger and become defensive. Who'd you pick?
I picked Shane.
We're sorry, Shane. If you're listening to this, dude, every time you took an L, there was a novel written in the chat. A novel. Complete with, you know, a trilogy on the horizon, right? Of where you went wrong and blah, blah, blah. But this is all in good fun.
It is all in good fun. These are not meant to be digs at anybody. It's purely just Just poking fun. We all get salty.
So next is the Herald, most active player in the community. So whether you're commenting a lot or being live for the games or general participation and contributions to the group, there's a lot of people who are good for this one, I feel.
Yeah, I know that he wasn't as active this season as he has been in the past and as he wanted to be this season because of school stuff, but I gave it to Sean. Sean is consistently one of the most positive people in the group. He's always one of the most helpful. He's obviously responsible for a lot of the documents that come out. He gives me a hand on the trade stuff, and in the past he's handled the trade and the team's documents all on his own. So Sean definitely still gets my vote for the Herald. I think he's easily the one of the biggest forces for positivity in the whole league.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I agree. And not to mention his great write-ups that he was doing for all the games and stuff.
Yeah,
you could always look for some good in-depth analysis, and obviously he was pretty funny with his puns and his jokes.
He likes his puns. We all like them too.
A couple other people though that actually really were involved in this was one that a lot of people don't really give enough credit to is Laurel.
Laurel was my other thought, and she might have been actually the one that I voted for when I submitted my document.
Mm-hmm. Though she may not always comment and be super, present in everything, she was live for every single major game she watched. She actually went back and documented all the kill leaderboard stuff, which
that is an undertaking this season. We have so many Pokemon.
Yeah, and so many matches. You gotta think that's how 15 matches a week or 14 times 2.
Yeah.
Or I'm not sure the math, but there's a bunch of matches every single week, and she went back and would rewatch all of them and document the kills, and then still try to be, she's always voting and doing stuff. So, yeah, I think she's good for that award.
Yeah, definitely.
The Clutch award to player who helped the tournament in a pinch. I think there's only one person this award goes to.
Just Daniel, right?
Yep.
Yeah, goes to Daniel.
Yeah, when Manny made the unfortunate decision to just drop out, Daniel popped in and helped keep this train going.
Absolutely. We really appreciate that. We invented this one, got made up for the BDL for a similar reason, just some acknowledgement. And so this is a thank you to Daniel. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. Now, here's one where
there are so many options for this.
The Oracle. The all-seeing, the player with the best prediction skills. Now, I know we're both probably a little biased, and we would love to vote for ourselves. Who would you vote for? Who would you say?
God, this one is so hard. My default has been to give it to you. Has always been to just give it to you. I go back and forth on whether or not I would give it to you or give it to Ross, who had a lot of really nice power through moments as a result of some good predictive skills, especially in the playoffs. I think ultimately I ended up giving it to Ross.
That's a good choice, honestly.
Yeah.
The player I gave it to, and this I've watched a lot. I've watched every single match, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
I'd give this to Shane. Though we were poking fun at him earlier about being salty and stuff, but there's no denying the amount of work and prep this guy did for his matches.
Oh yeah,
he came prepared for things. He obviously knew what could be brought or was brought, and he was consistently making hard predictions in his matches, double switches. Just predicted, decisions, turn-to-turn bases. I think an underrated prediction player is Shane.
Great answer.
Yeah. Now we move on to the underdog. Best new player in the tournament.
I have to give this one to William.
Oh.
I think I have to give this one to William. Like you said, he came into this him having maybe more experience than some of the other new players, but starting on roughly an even foot. It hadn't been something that he had participated in a while. He sort of had to relearn the game, and he relearned it well enough to work his way up into a playoff spot. And I think that shows a lot, especially when we're looking at that willingness to learn the game part. That is such a big deal, and I think that's something that William has exemplified this season.
Yeah, I agree with that. Who I picked for this, I actually picked Steven.
Okay.
Simply because like there was a point where you could see that he was definitely struggling with this format in the beginning of the season. And then there hit a point, almost like a revelation in his mind, where you could tell he started to actually make a much larger effort in his team building. He made like 5 trades in 1 week and changed his team and tried to improve on it. And then he took his games a little bit more seriously.
Yeah.
And his games became a lot closer, and he actually nabbed a win. So it's like, I think Steven did pretty well. He gets my award for best new player.
Yeah. Great answer.
So
Rivals
next
now.
here, rivals. Oh yeah. What's your favorite rivalry?
It's so hard to develop these rivalries. I feel like when you only get one match, and it also means that maybe there's something of a bias just because of you get to see more matches out of people that make it into the playoffs. But I thought the most interesting rivalry to watch this season was between you and your brother, especially when it came to the playoffs, because he was a lot of his some of his shit talking was the kind of thing that he would like drop in game. Some of his comments when he was playing against you during that playoff series were hysterical and salty and somewhat trolling and aggravating, and I thought it made for a fun series to watch. So strictly just because of the format being, I feel like, a little bit limiting to this award, I'm gonna have to go with that one.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
No, that's good. I like that answer. Now, for me, what I kind of like I like heat, Yeah. Give me a little drama with this a little bit. I'm a fan of wrestling, so you can see where my roots are tied here.
Yeah.
So when I see a rivalry, I want a little bit of something there. Obviously, there's potential in the future tournaments for an actual real-life rivalry.
Yeah.
I'm not going to spoil it too much, but there's definitely some heat between some players in our groups. I'll give you a hint. There's a certain big player in our group that didn't participate this time who has some heat with some people in our active group. And there's some big games and some heat that can be derived from that. Mm-hmm. But from what we had in this tournament, there was some potential. The Luke and Hayden, I think those two players grind a little bit, but it wasn't really fully realized in this tournament. Me and Sean, we've got a little bit of a rivalry going on.
Yeah.
And our match is good.
A little less heelish, I would say. Yours is a more competitive rivalry than a heel rivalry.
Yeah. Very much derived on respect and such.
For sure.
But as far as people grinding against each other, I think go no farther than William versus Hayden. Those two were, they were shit talking a little bit before their match, and when it came to the match, there was definitely some saltiness after it with the outcome, and Hayden beat William. But if you go back and look at that match with Hayden beating William, you'll see one newer comment that's from William saying, "You may have won the battle, but I won the war." That's insinuating William making playoffs and Hayden not.
That's very funny.
That's I like that touch. I like the little rivalry there. So that's my answer.
That's a good one.
And then we move on to the misfortuned player with bad luck.
I had a really hard time with this one compared to last time.
Yeah, me too. I think the bad luck was a little bit more spread out.
Yeah, for sure. We didn't have one person just constantly getting crapped on by the Pokemon gods this season.
Yeah. Some ones that come to mind was obviously William's Stone Edge miss was pretty pretty
That's a big
bad.
deal, yeah.
um, there was when Ross had that superior, and the one match he brought it to, he missed like 3 leaf storms and he got frozen. That's pretty bad.
I think I actually voted for Ross because of that, if I recall.
Yeah. There was another match. It was Kyler and Chris, and they both missed like 5 moves between the two of them. Like they were missing play roughs and power whips. Like it was really bad.
Yeah. Better to have it spread out in that case.
Yeah,
because they were missing on like the same turn they were missing, right?
Yeah, it was ridiculous. They were taking turns, so that it was hacks, but fair hacks.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. The Optimist, player with the best attitude in the tournament.
I think I gave this one to Sean. Sean had Sean's always been a real contender in this league for sure, and I'm sure to have gotten all the way through the season, being a contender, winning games, and to miss out on like ties and differentials from going to the playoffs must have been a real blow. But he kept it up with class, and he's always nice. He's always funny, giving a lot of good game analyses, and for that he got my vote for the Optimist.
That's good.
Yeah.
For me, I voted Kelsey. You know, it takes a lot of willpower and a lot of guts to be able to make it through the tournament. Struggling, you know, being a new player.
It's a long time to keep losing games.
Yeah. And to be criticized, like I know my criticisms aren't always the nicest. I'm pretty straightforward and
you don't beat around the bush.
I don't, yeah. So for her to always, you know, be taking this punishment and to still be like optimistic and having fun with it, joking around and taking criticism well, and I think Kelsey is like a real fucking trooper. I think she really came out of this, you know, beaten, bruised, but with a big smile on her face. So,
yeah. And last but not least, we have another new category, the Titleist, the player who consistently named their Pokemon creative and funny nicknames. Just a nice, friendly, jokey one to end things off.
Yeah. I think Luke was pretty funny.
Yeah, I gave my vote to Luke for this one.
Luke was pretty good.
Incorporating all the names, yeah.
Yeah. Sean was always really good.
Yeah.
Always had creative names. William's names were pretty cringy, but they're funny.
I liked Laurel's like theme nicknames. Those were pretty funny.
Oh yeah, she put a lot of work into making unique themes every week.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's quite a few people that fall into that category.
Yeah.
Cool.
You want to move on to the Pokemon?
Oh yeah. So, hopping over. All right. So, tallest midget, best PU Pokemon.
Really, what a terrible name.
Yeah, forgive us for some of these names. They're a little.
It's too late now. Maybe next season we change that one. That's pretty bad.
That's funny.
Not many PU Pokemon in this tournament, so this one was pretty hard for me. I think I voted Palisand. Because I'm pretty sure Palisand is true PU.
I'm pretty sure as well. Yeah, Palisand was pretty good.
Yeah, Shane really knows how to use that Pokemon.
And then Daniel picked it up, and he was also having some success with it.
Yeah, for sure.
What I voted for was Aggron.
Yeah.
Fuck, man. Ross really brought creativity and power into it. There was, like, when he fought me, he brought, like, a bulky Assault Vest set to take on my Dragon, and it was actually a problem. Like, and then the next game, he's got Trick Room, Choice Banded, Head Smash. Like, this guy really utilized it well.
Mm-hmm.
I think Aggron is my pick.
Yeah. Great pick.
Minor League, best NU Pokemon.
I voted for myself on this one. I voted for Incineroar.
Which is a very fair pick,
yeah.
I think.
That thing got me out of so many binds. I was back and forth, thinking at least about my own Pokemon, back and forth on whether I thought Incineroar or Clawitzer is my more valuable in U pick. And while Claw got me a lot of good games right in the beginning, I thought that it became a little bit predictable, and I liked that. And Haxorus took off a lot of the load of like being a breaker. So Incineroar stepped up and became like a really reliable, bulky, sort of supporty thing that I could rely on, and that's why I ended up voting it for this.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I think I voted Clawitzer just because in the early season it was really prominent, and just seeing an NU Pokemon so prominent was really cool.
I get that.
And I kind of an underlying pick I'd say was also Weezing, which is Kelsey's.
Great.
That was something that was needed on her team, and
great trade.
You know, good trade, and she utilized it to the best of her ability, I think. So, yeah. Are you tier middleman?
I'm
just gonna say real quickly. I like when everybody was drafting, everybody was picking OUs and UUs and stuff first. I picked my RUs first. This is my damn award. I better get this one.
Who are you voting for?
Okay, go ahead. Oh, me? I voted Mega Blastoise, but I'll also accept Zygarde.
I'll also accept Zygarde. Both incredible RU picks. Man, you know, when I think about people that really know how to use like one specific Pokemon, like they take it all the time. It's always really reliable. It always ends up being a competitor or a thorn in their side. And I hate how much Sean loves Porygon 2. That thing is annoying and bulky, and it's got staying power, and it can hit hard, and it's flexible, and he has broken that Pokemon down to a science. And for that reason, I voted it for the middleman.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that his Porygon 2 is really annoying and well used. Runner up, best UU tier Pokemon.
Yeah.
Man, UU tier was so hard to pick because like that was the premier tier in this league, I think.
I agree.
I voted for Mega Aggron because
that's a good pick.
Shane really put a lot of work and effort into using that Pokemon, and he really made it work well. Like I felt like going into that match, I was more worried about taking down the Mega Aggron than I was dealing with the Kyurem Black.
Sleeping on the steel types, those steel megas. I wouldn't have hesitated to vote for Steelix in the RU category. I'm just not an asshole.
I'm thinking that's a very viable choice to pick as well. Yeah,
that's a solid pick for the UU though. I'm back and forth between two of these. So when I submitted it at first, I actually voted for Ross's Reuniclus. He didn't take it as often as he maybe could have, but whenever that thing made an appearance, it just took over games, and he started off the season, or pretty close to started off, with just casually 6-0ing a team with one Pokemon in the form of Reuniclus, and that definitely deserves a shout out. And I was back and forth between that and Luke's Crawdaunt came to mind. I don't think I've ever seen a trade like so clearly just take over the spotlight of a team as quickly as Luke's Crawdaunt. So there's a lot of really, really competitive options for the UU pick. I think I don't think people would argue that the UU tier really stole the show in this draft format. So those are my picks.
Nice. And for the OU tier, best OU, named the Lando.
The Lando. I don't think I'm gonna vote for the Lando though.
I could definitely see the Landorus being picked because it was, in the kill leaderboard, and Reggie did use it very well. Like the amount of utility, offensively and defensively, and support, and he utilized all of it. It's definitely a contender for this spot.
For sure.
I think the one that is kind of hard to deny, obviously, because you're the damn champion because of it. It's Lele.
Yeah.
You can't deny the champion, legitimately.
It's so broken. Taboo Lele is broken.
It is. Like, I've been saying forever it should have been banned from OU, but
Yeah.
people have kind of adapted to it.
Yeah.
But in this league, it's definitely made its mark.
I voted for Taboo Lele on this one as well.
Yeah. Oh. This was an interesting one.
Best Mega.
Goliath. But what were you thinking on this one?
I voted for Sharpedo. It didn't get a lot of time to shine, but as soon as Ross traded for that one, it just like in the same way that I said with Luke's Crawdon, another Water Dark type, he traded for it and it immediately stole the spotlight on his team. Like, it instantly became a focus. It instantly became like, here's my win condition, like 90% of the time, and that's the reason I voted for Sharpedo as the best Mega.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of agree with like the idea of what you're going with, like a Pokemon that just kind of steals the show with a team.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really struggling with this one, actually. I changed my answer like 3 times. You know, obviously I'm biased with my Blastoise.
Yeah.
Your Steelix is really strong. The Aggron was really good. You know, when William had the Mega Medicham, I felt like that Pokemon was just a monster.
Yeah.
Even things like the Mawile somehow made it into this tournament. But
I think if Hayden hadn't traded the Lopunny, we'd be voting for Lopunny here, but it didn't get enough time to shine.
Well, actually, I did vote for Mega Lopunny.
Oh, did you? Okay.
I did. Because simply,
yeah,
even though it's a free agent, technically, it was in the tournament.
It was.
And it completely took a team that was not good. It was kind of underwhelming. And he won games from it, and it was in the top kill leaderboard forever.
Mm-hmm.
I think it stood out. So, best defensive Pokemon.
The immovable object. This is another tough one. A lot of people focused on real bulk. Built up some really nice bulky cores. But in the end, I thought about it, and if it's called the immovable object, well, in my opinion, there was nothing more immovable than Reggie's Milotic.
And I would have to agree with you. Yeah. I voted Melodic as well.
The thing was just insane. That Marvel scale set is ridiculous. Hold the burn orb, you can't whittle it down because it's got a burn orb and it's burnt. You can't toxic it. It's got crazy defense because of the ability, meaning that you can put the rest of it in special defense. And it's scald burning you and recovering, and it is immovable.
And go no further than Reggie versus Laurel series.
Yeah.
Game 2, that thing literally didn't move. It just sat in for like 20 turns and whittled down Laurel's team. The definition of it, I think. This is a tough one, man. The backup. Best traded Pokemon.
This was not a tough one for me.
Why?
I think that Haxorus is, if we're talking about best traded Pokemon, is just pure upgrade. And I'm not sure there was a bigger upgrade this tournament than Lucario to Haxorus. It was just straight up like, I'm going to trade Lucario for better Lucario. And it went into my team better. It set up more easily. It was a little bit faster. It had a little more attack. The only thing I was sacrificing was a little bit of versatility. And again, going back to the whole steal in the show thing, I think that Haxorus did just that.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. Like, it did kind of it did so well on your team that it undermined things like Clawitzer and stuff. Yeah.
It straight up just completely stole. It pulled the rug out from under my own Clawitzer because it was just so good at what it did.
See, me, I fought a little bit with this because there was so many good trades.
Yeah, people really took advantage of the trades for the better. Like, I don't think you can look at, with the exception of Lewis, who obviously didn't trade anything, but Lewis's team was really good the whole way through. I don't think there's a single team, maybe Shane's, that downgraded.
I think what I ended up going with was simply I had to look at a trade where there was a Pokemon that was actually detrimental to the team, and completely 180 the entire team.
I think I know what you're about to say.
This is the difference between your Haxorus. Your Haxorus was just a bonus for your team because your team still was the same. Luke's team, on the other hand, was actually detrimentally hurt by his Keldeo choice. Mm-hmm. There was zero reason to have this Pokemon on his team, to the point where it was just he was comfortable with the Pokemon and picked it, not because it was good for him. The Mega Venusaur filled a gaping hole, and made his team an incredibly scary threat, in my opinion. Mega Venusaur is offensively and defensively annoying as hell.
Yeah.
I don't see a much better trade than that. Maybe Tapu Bulu, simply because
Bulu I had the
support and offensive options are just too good with Bulu, and definitely helps support Ross's team in a great way. But those are what I was thinking.
I can't argue with that.
The heavy hitter, best Z move user.
Man, this is a tough one. I think I ended up giving my vote to Reggie on this one. Strictly from just looking at like the kind of Pokemon that can be super versatile with this stuff, and like Landorus, Latias, Komao, just a lot of like versatility. But the thing that there are just so many ridiculously viable sets. Like you could take Tectonic Rage, you could take Continental Crush, you could take Sky Strike, and all of them are going to fill like completely different gaps and just break through whatever you need to, like right then and there. And that's the reason why I ended up giving it to the Landorus, just because like so much versatility that not only is it going to surprise you with like what Z Crystal it's holding, it might not even be holding a Z Crystal. It doesn't need to hold it, and it'll be just as good if it's Scarfed. It'll be just as good if it's Lefties, and you have to really watch out, because if it is the Z Crystal and you don't realize it, that is just doom.
No, that's really good answer.
Yeah.
The two I was fighting with ultimately the one I went with, I'll give kudos to the Heatran.
Yeah.
This is more of a situation where I don't think it was fully utilized.
I agree.
But the potential was there, and early on it was used really well. The different Z moves, Corkscrew, Crash, Bloom Doom, there's definitely lots of options there. But the one I went with was Komao.
Yeah, another great option.
Just the fear of Clangorius Soul Blaze, mm-hmm. and the fact that he can go with something completely different was always really cool options. The move pool was pretty large with physical and special moves, where like he didn't necessarily have to go with his signature one. He could go with like a Fire Z or what have you, right?
Yeah,
I think
the fairy counters, man. The fairy counters moves, Flash Cannon and Poison Jab, so good at luring.
Mm-hmm. So that's what my vote was.
Yeah.
The Trapper, Pokemon that was most skilled at trapping its prey.
This is another one. There were a couple in the player category that like felt like shoo-ins last year or last time we did these, and for this season was just a lot less obvious to me. Like there was a lot less really obvious trapping this season as opposed to past ones. I had a difficult time with this one.
Yeah. I've watched a few of the games. I definitely have examples. Mm-hmm. The most obvious one on paper, you would just go, well, Sean's Magneton.
Yeah, I think I just gave it to Sean's Magneton because I was like, I don't know what to pick.
In practice, it really didn't fulfill that role ever. Like, if you look at two teams which it would have done well against, like me and William, neither of us ever brought our steel types to him. Yeah. So it wasn't actually able to perform its role. But if you look at like Metagross, Williams Metagross, it actually performed a pursuit traps a couple times. Once against Kelsey, another one against what was it? I think Kyler, Elias.
Okay. Oh, the Latias makes
Um,
sense.
yeah, and then you got Ross's Renucleus. It had Infestation.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he used that. Did he use it in the playoff match? I can't remember, but I know it did use Infestation. Um, and then I'm a little biased. I voted for myself on this simply because it was a play that actually won me an entire game.
Mm-hmm.
It was my Scizor
Yeah.
against Luke's Starmie. The Choice Banded Pursuit actually completely killed his Starmie and basically won me the match there. So
Nice. Well, those are all good picks. I was pretty brainless with mine because I'm like, I don't know that I have any examples. But
that's okay.
yeah. All right, coming into the home stretch now. Just a few of these left.
Yeah, we're almost there. Demolitionist, Wallbreaker. I had to give it to Luke. Crawdon.
Crawdon. Yeah, I think I also gave it to Luke.
That thing came in. That thing killed something.
Yes, it did.
Or whatever wall you switched into was not eating a crab hammer or a knockoff very well. So, yeah, special shout out to Kiram, to Bulu,
Oh,
to
definitely.
Haxorus.
There were a lot of really big, scary wall breaker threats this time around.
Yeah. Gotta respect the power.
Oh, yeah.
Cleanup. Best like game non-mega Pokemon. Who do you pick?
I think I have to pick Tapu Lele.
Tapu Lele? Yeah, I can definitely see that.
I have to.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot in this category. It's kind of hard to pick some.
Yeah.
Obviously, the obvious ones are like Tapu Lele, Tapu Koko.
Just Tapu everything.
But I think like things like Nihilego and Slurpuff or some.
Nihilego
cool
was
picks.
the big competition in my mind for Tapu Lele. Just Beast Boost and Scarfing. Like, man.
Yeah. Not the best like stab to always sweep, but it's still like Luke made it work. So yeah. Thorn, most annoying Pokemon in battle. I think it's going to depend on the person you ask this.
For sure.
Me, I picked Espeon. I struggled especially since my team's a spike stacking team.
Mm-hmm.
I struggled in the team building stage against that Pokemon.
Yeah, that was a solid pick. Yeah, of course.
What about yourself?
I was trying to think of like the thing that caused the most trouble around the whole league, not necessarily the thing that gave me personally the most trouble. The Snorlax was something that I thought that people had a lot of trouble with, even though like it kind of took the same set most of the time. But I feel like people really just did not know what to do about that.
That's true, yeah.
And I think is I have to give my vote to it because like the curse set, while predictable, it just like shores up so many of the weaknesses because most of the time like, oh, Snorlax is out, I want to hit it with like a physical fighting move. It's just going to curse in your face and all of a sudden your superpower isn't going to hurt anymore, and your Focus Blast was already not doing much because its Spadef is ridiculous. So I had to give it to Snorlax.
Okay, yeah. No, I can't argue with that.
Yeah. with a runner-up being Milotic.
Yeah, screw that thing. That thing's getting enough awards.
Yeah, I agree.
Wingman, best support Pokemon.
Man.
They helped the team in a non-direct way, so don't confuse this with a defensive Pokemon. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Different roles.
Very different.
Me, I went with Tapu Koko on this one. Now, hear me out.
That's a decent shot. Go ahead.
Obviously, Electric Terrain helped boost the power of Mega Manectric and also help with the his Unburdened user of Slurpuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was pretty integral to helping Lewis's team in a lot of his early successes. That was my vote.
Yeah. A solid pick. Let's see here. Man, this is such a tough one. My mind sort of defaults to like kind of wish passers, which is where I think a lot of people their first like thought goes to for support.
Right.
But in a kind of another sort of supporty way is I think Mandibuzz deserves a big shout out here because like it's one of the more reliable defoggers. It's got crazy bulk for a flying type. It gives a lot of shores up a lot of his issues that Shane might have switching in a lot of his other kind of bulkier threats, things like the Aggron in particular. Like, you don't want to switch that into an Earthquake, obviously, but you don't have like many things that can eat a hit as well. And so go out to the Mandibuzz, roost it off, defog away whatever you need to defog, and take hits, land knockoffs, U-turns. Like, that's a case of like it is just a little bit because it's like kind of bulky and has a lot of staying power, but I think the ability to switch it around really cleanly, to pivot really cleanly through it, and hazard removal makes it a really valuable support pick.
I think that's that's a really good pick, actually. I didn't even think about that. Yeah. Defoggers they play like a huge role in the game, and yeah, I think Shane did use his Mandibuzz really well, especially his team that was so weak to rocks and able to give him clean switch-ins to his threats. Yeah, exactly. I agree with you.
Exactly.
Now this one, don't take too much offense to this one. Underachiever, the most poorly used Pokemon in the tournament.
I had a pretty quick answer to this one, but I would like you go first.
So when I look at this, I basically want to look at a Pokemon that should be dominating, should be like on the kill leaderboard, should be like consistently destroying teams, and is just not used that way. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, I voted Mega Alakazam on this.
Okay, that's not where I can see why you would think that one.
You just go to the OU tier, you look, watch Smogon tournament matches, a lot of team archetypes with Alakazam. Mm-hmm. You can definitely see the power and the potential it has, and then seeing how it performed was pretty underwhelming, considering it was probably the weakest Mega in this entire tournament, I'd say.
Yeah. This was not the answer that I put down on my list, but I just had a thought that I think is like, man, hilarious for this.
What's that?
You guys all had the pleasure of watching Bisharp get underutilized on 2 different teams this season.
Oh, that's true.
Which I didn't even think about until I was looking at the list now, but I'm like, that's kind of funny. Bisharp is a UU pick, a great Pokemon, and spent the entire season on 2 different teams, neither of which knew how to use it. Though for me, I would think that it was less knowing how to use it and more just like not having the space for it most of the time. For Luke, it was a lot of like, the hell do I even do with this thing?
Yeah.
That's not the answer that I was going to go.
Slot.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it ate up a UU slot, which is important, right?
Mm-hmm. My answer for this one is Nidoqueen.
Oh, that's right.
It spent the beginning of the season holding a Z Crystal when it shouldn't have been, because Life Orb hits harder anyway. And then by the time that it was switched around, Hayden's team had been traded around and switched up in such a way that I thought that Nidoqueen's value had dropped off considerably by the time that he had actually freed it up and gave it a position to shine. So that's my answer.
I agree with that. I'll throw myself into this, actually. Y'all can continue to make fun of me over my Chestnut.
I forgot about Chestnut.
Quick way to get 6-0 swept by Mega Pinsir. Just bring Chestnut and don't have him anything to deal with Mega Pinsir. Yeah. That's funny. Best lead Pokemon.
Man.
There's a few good leads. I thought what I voted for was actually kind of dumb. I wish I could take it back. I said Araquanid, but Laurel never led with Araquanid.
Yeah. I thought that, like, I kind of looked around and was like, who do I think would actually be a good lead? And then from there, it was like, all right, now I got to look up and make sure that this thing actually got used as a lead. And for the ones that I thought were obvious, like, they ended up not really being used as leads that often in the games that I found. So while my answer ended up being something that I really didn't expect it to be, and here letting some credence to, we're not just like try to throw somebody under the bus when we give out an award like the other achiever. I don't like hate Hayden or anything. And as proof of that, I think that the best lead Pokemon consistently was Hayden's Azelf.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Just from like the sheer variety of like different kinds of leads that you can do with it. Like you can start off as like something of a breaker with some choice band sets. You can start off with just like scouting and momentum with a U-turn set. You can explode in something's face. You can stealth rock. You can set up screens with it.
Taunt.
Taunt. And he used it as the lead a lot and usually to pretty good effect. So yeah, that's my answer for best lead.
Okay, not bad.
Yeah.
Um, Gambler, the most unpredictable Pokemon.
Man. This one was hard.
Yeah. Um, I ended up voting for Komodo again
Yeah. A solid pick.
because I felt like a lot of Williams' big wins were because of the unpredictability of the Komodo.
Yeah.
Especially since you're going into the match expecting, the Z move, and then what you're getting instead is like Stealth Rock's defensive set. Like what? or or in Shane's case, you're expecting that, and you get substitute Toxic Thunder Punch.
Yeah.
The amount of variety, I think, was pretty good with Komodo, and I think it was utilized pretty well.
I agree. My answer for this one, a bit of a gimme, but I think Landorus T is just the king of variability, and as a result, it just kind of gets this word by default. It's cheating a bit, but I mean, it's a Lando. It can do a million different things, and maybe those different things aren't varied enough to really like make that big of a difference in the way that you build or prepare for it. But having a surprise Z move or a surprise choice scarf is not going to be good if you aren't expecting it. And so for that reason, Lando gets my vote.
Not bad, not bad.
Yeah. Last but not least,
Best nickname.
best nickname.
I'm embarrassed to say what mine is, so
Please go ahead.
I'm just gonna. I'm not gonna say it. You guys can just see it when the nominations pop up. But some, there was a lot of good nicknames out there. Obviously, a favorite from the people I've talked to. A lot of people think Sean Slash was really good,
I think I voted for Sean Slash.
especially since Laurel kept the name going
Yeah.
when it was over. That was the funniness.
That
of it.
never happens. That is true legend status.
Yeah, it kept its uniqueness. So.
Yeah, Sean Slash. That was my
Cool.
vote as well.
Awesome. Well, that wraps up kind of our take on the awards here. I really hope everybody takes the time to go nominate, because we're going to be doing a separate voting afterwards once we get like the top 3 nominated guys in each category, and then we'll do a final vote. And then when I do the giant archive of the Draft of Power, we'll actually have a full section in there detailing every single award. And I just hope everybody gets involved in this because it's fun.
It is fun.
Yeah.
I think that sounds like a show to me. Do you agree?
I agree. Yeah, this was a long one.
Yeah, very long. But I mean, it was bound to be long. It's going to be more detailed. We spent a lot of time on playoffs, a lot of time on superlatives, but I think this is like a fun little section to talk about right at the end. I think this is still a good one.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, like, comment, let us know what you think, what your suggestions are for the awards in the comments below, and go vote.
Yeah.
And
Go vote.
if you want to be a
We need it.
guest in the future, obviously, let us know. Thanks for taking the time to listen to us talk.
Yeah. No, these could be a little bit long, but hopefully they're worth it. This one is going to be the longest one by a mile, but I think it's still going to be a good one. So, yeah.
Awesome. Stay tuned for the next couple weeks of the NACP content, and look forward to talking to you guys next time.
Yeah. Until next time, friends.